Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to lesson number 13 of Mukhtasar Quduri. Right, let's look at these words then. So tajuzu, this came before, it's from jaza yajuzu, tahara. We've done this as well, which means purity. Ma means water. Khalata, okay, this is something we haven't done. So khalata yukhalitu. Khalata yukhalitu, bab mufa'ala. It means to mix. Okay, to mix. So mixing something, to mix something becomes mixed. Shay means something. Shay. Tahir, it means pure. فغير غير يغير, this is from bab taf'il, which means to change. Okay, to change. غير التغيير, to bring a change. So I didn't write that, so it's to change. أحد, one of. أحد, one. Okay, awsaf, this is the plural of wasf, which means an attribute. It's an attribute, a wasf. He, okay, this is a pronoun. It goes back to the water. Okay, so this he goes back to water. Kama'il, ma is kaf, is like. Ma is water. Mud, okay, or mud, this is mud, like in English language. Mud, muddy water. Ma alladhi, which yakhtalitu. Yakhtalitu is also from khalat, the root letters khalata, ikhtalata, yakhtalitu. Okay, ikhtalata, yakhtalitu, it means to mix as well. It's another variation, a form of the word. Al-ashnan, okay, this is a type of plant. Okay, this is a type of plant which is used to mix with water. In English they call it hyssopus. I think that's how you pronounce it, hyssopus. I'll show you a picture. Here's a picture of it. You can see hyssopus is called, the plant is called hyssopus. And it's mixed with water, and it gives like a very fragrant, and it acts as a detergent as well in cleaning. They used to use it in the old days. Next is saboon. Saboon, this is soap. Za'fran, this is saffron. Okay, saffron. Let me show you a picture of it. Here's a picture. Right, so here's a picture of of the saffron water, saffron mixed with water, and here's a picture of soapy water. Okay, so that's the explanation of the words. Right, let's look at the Arabic grammar now. So tajuz is a verb, it's a present tense verb, and it's in the feminine, okay, single feminine. And the subject for this, what is tajuz, is taharatu. This is the subject, okay, for this. So tahara, tajuzu, ba harf al-jar, and it gives this a kasra here, double kasra. Khalatahu, khalata yukhalitu, okay, this is a past verb, and it's single, okay, single, masculine. Who, the dhamir who, it actually goes back to water, and the fa'il, the subject of khalata, is shay'un. Okay, so that's subject, khalatahu shay'un, something has mixed with the water. And tahir, this is an adjective, this is a sifa, this is the mawsuf. Okay, this is the sifa and mawsuf, and that's why it carries the same vowel as the mawsuf. فغير, so غير is a past tense, okay, and the fa'il is actually shay'un tahirun, huwa, okay, that goes back to shay'un tahirun. And what does it change? What's the maf'ul? The maf'ul bihi is this ahada awsa fihi. Right, you've guessed it, it's mudaf, and this is the mudaf ilayhi. Alright, so ahada awsa fihi, this is a fatha because it's maf'ul bihi, and it's single because it's a mudaf, and that's the mudaf ilayh. And this is something that you can look up in the Nahu books, and you can practice it. So غير, it changes أحد, one of its attributes. He, the dhamir he, yep, you guessed it, it goes back to water, we said early on. أوصاف he, one of its qualities. كماء المد, ka is harf al-jar, ma'i kasra, and it's single kasra because it's a mudaf, and the mud is the mudaf ilayhi, so hence that will take kasra as well. Ma al-muddi, and the waw is ataf. Right, so the waw is ataf on ma. Okay, and also you have an ataf here as well. But this ataf over here is actually back to ashnan, and this ataf over here is actually ataf on to ashnan as well. Right, so let's see how that works then. So wal ma'i, because it's ataf on ma, the kaf will also affect this, so we give it a kasra here, ma'i. الذي يختلط به يختلط, this is a verb, past present tense verb, and it's he, single masculine, and the ism al-fa'il, or sorry, the fa'il for it is ashnan. Okay, the fa'il is ashnan, and sabun is also, and za'fran is also, all of these are ataf on ashnan, hence they all take the dhamma. In other words, these are also things which are mixed with it. And the dhamir he, bihi, right, it actually goes back to water. Right, so let's look at that again. So tajuzu, right, this would be the verb, and then tahara, and all of this, tahara is actually the fa'il, the subject, and bima'in, okay, this is linked, okay, linked all the way up to that. Okay, all of that is linked all the way to that, and so it's all like one thing. In other words, it's permissible to perform tahara with all these types of water. Okay, and it's all linked together, and so this all becomes a jumla fi'liya, right? Jumla fi'liya. Okay, jumla fi'liya. Right, so let's look at the lessons that we learned from the text. Right, so here Imam Qudoori wants to explain several things, or actually one thing which contains several things, and that is what if something pure is mixed with water? Are you allowed to perform with the wudu with such a substance? Are you allowed to? Yes or no? So Imam Qudoori explains this and says that if something pure is mixed with water, and even though it changes one of the attributes, okay, what are the attributes? There's 3 attributes water has. Color, the color of water. Number 2 is the smell of water. And number 3 is the taste. These are 3 attributes water has. So if something is mixed in with water and one of these changes, then it's fine to perform wudu with that. Right, so let me give you a few images of how this is. So the principle is this. Okay, this from here, okay, from here up to here, this is actually the principle that Imam Qudoori wants us to understand. That if something pure mixes with water and changes its qualities, then you can still perform wudu with this. Like, for example, and he gives 3 examples, or 4 examples, sorry. Okay, so there's one example is like muddy water. Okay, let me just show you an image of muddy. Right, so here's an example of muddy water. This is muddy water, right? You're allowed to perform wudu with this, okay, because it's pure. Something is mixed with pure is mixed with it, which is mud. That's fine. Or ashnan, right? We showed you ashnan earlier. Let me show. Here's ashnan. So if this was to be mixed with water, then you can perform wudu with that. Or if sabun, soap, or za'fran, like this. Here it is. Okay, so this is saffron water. Alright, and this is soapy water. So Imam Qudoori says you can perform wudu with all these things as long as, even though one of the qualities changes, like I said, scholars have said, even if more than that change, then it's generally permissible as long as most of the qualities don't change, right? So if most of these qualities change, taste, color, and smell, and it overwhelms or it overtakes the water, then you can't perform wudu with it any longer. Okay, so for example, like if someone was to mix lots of milk in water and then it became very milky, color changed, the taste changed, and also the smell of it changed, then you wouldn't be able to perform wudu with it because now it's not really water, it's more milk. Okay, there's more milk in it, and so you wouldn't be able to perform wudu with it. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to lesson number 14. So let's start off here, explaining the words. So we have kul means all, ma means water, da'im here means normally it means something that lasts, but here refers to something that's still stagnant. Okay, still stagnant. Waqa'at, this is a verb from waqa'a yaqa'u, which means to fall into, past tense. Waqa'at is past tense, feminine. Fihi, in it, it. Okay, this dhamir it goes back to ma da'im. Najasatun, okay, najasa here is the impurity. Lam yajuz, jaza, yajuzu, done this before. Al wudu, okay, this is ablution, wudu, ablution, this before as well. Bihi, he, with it, again, with it goes back to ma daim as well. Qalilan means a small amount or little. And kana means was. Kathiran, much or many or a lot. لأن, because النبي, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, أمر, this is a past tense from أمر يأمر. أمر يأمر بنصر ينصره, it means to command. He commanded, command. بحفظ, حفظ, حفظ is protection. Okay, protection. Al-ma, water, min al-najasa, from impurity. فقال, and he said, قال يقول, he said, لا يبولن, okay, لا يبولن, بال يبول, okay, بال يبول, it means to urinate. Okay, to urinate. And yabulanna, the noon at the end, this is noon ta'keed, for emphasis. Okay, la yabulanna, and this is actually a prohibition. Okay, prohibition. La yabulanna, the noon thaqeel at the end. La yabulanna, he should not. Ahadukum, ahad is any one of you. Fil ma'i daim, in still water. Wala yaghtasilanna, again yaghtasilanna, this is from yaghtasala, yaghtasilu, okay, means to take a bath. And here as well it has a noon thaqeel at the end, and this is a prohibition. Okay, he should not take a bath. Prohibition, he should definitely not take a bath. Fihi, in it, dhamir he goes back to ma'ud da'im. Min al-janabati, min harf al-jar. Janabati, it means major ritual impurity, like we've done before. A person who requires ghusl, in other words, a person who requires bathing. وقال عليه السلام, and the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, إذا استيقظ, استيقظ, استيقظ يستيقظ, we've done this before. استيقظ, okay, استيقظ يستيقظ, يستيقظ, okay, sorry for my writing. استيقظ يستيقظ, it means to wake up. So it's a present tense, past tense, sorry. Past, he woke up. إذا استيقظ أحدكم, if one of you wakes up, أحدكم, من منامه, نام, no means sleep. His sleep, right? So this he goes back to أحدكم. فلا يغمسن, غمس يغمس, again this is similar to اغتسل and لا يبولن, this is a prohibition, and this is has a nun thaqil at the end, and it's he. يده, yad, it means hand. Fil ina, ina means container, okay, bucket. حتى يغسلها, until he يغسلها, غسل يغسل, to wash 3 and 3 times. فإنه, for indeed, لا يدري, يدري, okay, this is from أدرى, يدري, أدرى يدري, okay, to know. Sorry, not أدرى يدري, oops, so delete that. It's actually درى يدري, okay, درى, yeah, that's correct now. So it's درى يدري, does not know. أين, where. باتت, باتت, okay, this is from بات يبيت, بات يبيت, which means to spend the night. Spend night. يده, his hand. Okay, so كل ماء, all water. Now let me show you a picture of some water. Okay, here's ماء الدائم. This is an example of ماء الدائم, still water. Okay, it's called still because it's not really moving. It's in a fixed place and it's not flowing from one side to the other. So it's considered to be still water, stagnant water. And an example of another example of still water is also, water in a bucket that you have. So this is also still water. Right, now remember this for when we explain the text, inshallah. I'll come back to that. So that's the explanation of the words. Now let's go to the Arabic grammar. Right, so kullu, this is the mudaf, and da'imin, this is the mudaf ilayhi, that's why it has a kasra. And da'imin, this is, yep, you guessed it, it's sifa. So therefore this also becomes the mawsuf. Okay, ma is the mawsuf as well of da'im. إذا وقعت, وقعت is the fi'l and it's mu'annath, feminine, and the fa'il is najasa. Okay, so that's the fa'il of the fi'l. So what falls if najasa, impurity, falls? Fihi, in it. In it, the dhamir, it goes back to ma daim. Ma daim. Okay, so if or when najasa falls into it. Lam yajuz al-wudu. Lam, this is harf al-jazm. So originally, this was yajuzu. This was yajuzu. And because of lam, okay, jazm's taken place, waw gets cut off. Lam yajuz. This is a morphology rule, sarf rule. So lam yajuz, what's the fa'il of yajuz? It's wudu. Okay, what is not permitted? Wudu is not permitted. So wudu is the fa'il of yajuz. Lam yajuz. Bihi, the dhamir, he goes to ma'u da'im. Qalilan kana. Now we have kana over here. The ism of kana, okay, is huwa, which actually goes back all the way to ma'u da'im. Yep, So 3 times the meal is going back to ma'ud da'im. So whether the ma'ud da'im is in the khabar qalilan, this is a muqaddam khabar. Okay, khabar muqaddam, which means it's brought forward. Normally the khabar is delayed, so here it's brought forward. So whether the ma'ud da'im is qalilan or kathiran, and this is also another khabar. So this is a khabar, okay, part of the khabar, and this is part of the khabar. أو عطف. لأن النبي, okay, لأن النبي, okay, there's a fatha there because of أن. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر, the fa'il of أمر, past tense, is هو, that goes back to the Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم. بحفظ, ba harf al-jar, and the harf al-jar is going to affect the hifz, give it one kasra. Why? Because this is a oops, this is a, let's move that screen a bit back. So this is a mudaf, okay, this is a mudaf, mudaf, and al-ma'i is mudaf ilayhi. That's why we give it kasra. بحفظ الماء من, okay, so we give this a kasra. فقال, so he said, who is he? He meaning the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, لا يبولن, لا يبولن, this is a fi'l, this is a nahi, and the fa'il of the nahi is أحدكم, okay, one of you. So this goes back to here, okay, one of you should not urinate. Fi, in, again this is harf al-jar here, daim is the mawsu, the sifa, okay, this is the sifa again, and this is the mawsuf, okay, ولا يغتسلن, same again, لا يغتسلن, and he, okay, meaning that person, أحدكم, the file is the huwa, that goes back to أحدكم. فيه, should not take ghusl in it, meaning the water. من الجنابة, من الجنابة, حرف الجر goes back to janaba, kasra over there. وقال, and he said, he goes back to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. إذا استيقظ, استيقظ is past tense. أحدكم is the fi'l, or the fa'il, goes back to the fi'l استيقظ. So when one of you awakens, min manamihi, min harf al-jar, gives this a kasra. فلا يغمسن, then he should not, so the huwa, that goes back to أحدكم, then he should definitely not يغمس, he should not dip. غمس يغمس means to dip. If I didn't mention it earlier, لا يغمسن, it means to dip. So what should he not dip? He should not dip his hand, يده, his hand, okay, he, that goes back to أحدكم as well. في الإناء, حرف الجر, حرف الجر is going to give this a kasra. حتى, until, يغسلها. Now this يغسلها fatha is because this is a hatta which has an un hidden next to it, and it's called hatta jarra, harf al-jar, actually acts as a harf al-jar, and because of this, you know, it can't be attached to a, or it can't come before a fi'l, so they add an un over here, and therefore the un gives this the fatha. ثلاثا, how many times? ثلاثا, 3 times. غسلا ثلاثا, this we mentioned before. This is the sifa of fi'l mutlaq, maf'ul mutlaq. فإنه, for indeed he goes back to the person, أحدكم. لا يدري, okay, again huwa goes back to him. أين باتت, باتت is feminine, okay, باتت يده, yad is actually the fa'il of batat, right? So this is actually the fa'il of batat, because the Arabs have all paired limbs are feminine, paired limbs are all feminine. Okay, so hands are two, and therefore it's feminine. So batat yadahu, where his hand spent the night. Okay, so let's do all of this again. So the tarkeeb, or the whole structure of it. So وَكُلُّ مَاءٍ دَائِمٍ. كُلُّ مَاءٍ دَائِمٍ, this is the mubtada. And then the khabar is all of this. إذا وقعت في لم يجزه بقليل كان أو كثيرا لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بحفظ الماء من النجاسة وقال لا يبولن أحدكم في الماء الدائم ولا يغتسلن فيه من الجنابة وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا استيقظ أحدكم من المنام فلا يغمسن يده في الإناء حتى يغسلها ثلاثا فإنه لا يدري أين بات يده. Okay, so all water. إذا وقعت فيه نجاسة, impurity falls into it, then wudu is not permissible, so whether that water is small or large, because the Prophet ﷺ has commanded the protection of water from impurity, and he said, let not one of you urinate in stagnant water, nor should he take a bath due to janaba, which may due to impurity. وقال عليه السلام, and the Messenger ﷺ said, when one of you wakes up from his sleep, then he should not dip his hand into the container until he washes it 3 times, for indeed he does not know where his hand spent the night. Okay, so that's all of that. Now let's look at the lessons that we can learn from this. Right, so from here Imam Qudoori, what he wants to explain is regarding stagnant water. Right, and he brings the ruling with regards to impurity falling into stagnant water. Impurity, if impurity falls in stagnant water, then what's the ruling of that water when a person wishes to do wudu? So here's a picture of a pool. Okay, let me explain how this works. So let's say, for example, some stool or anything like that was to fall into this pool. So let's say, let's draw some stool here. Okay, it's not a very nice picture. So let's say some stool fell into this pool. What would be the ruling of performing wudu from this pool? So Imam Qudoori here says that all stagnant water in which impurity has fallen, then wudu cannot be performed from this pool, whether it's small or large. Right, now this sentence here, whether it's small or large, has to be understood. What this means is whether the area around the impurity, whether it's small. So let me just choose another color here, show you. So this area around the impurity, whether this is small amount or whether it's a large amount, then you can't do wudu around the area. Okay, around the close vicinity of the area, you cannot perform wudu around that area. Now, that's if it's a large pool. And if it's a small bucket, for example, like this, if it's a small bucket, then you can't really do wudu from that bucket at all, right? Because it's a very small amount. So if impurity or something was to fall inside of this bucket, then you wouldn't be able to do wudu from this bucket at all. But if it's a large area, then the area around the impurity, wudu cannot be performed. And what's the reason? He brings 2 reasons for this. And as you've probably worked it out, Imam Qudoori doesn't bring evidence for every single mas'ala, and that's not really why he's written the book. Okay, there's more advanced books where the scholars deal with the dalail, the evidences, that if a student wishes, that the student could go and study those books, advanced books, after he's studied the basic mas'ala. So he's given 2 evidences, right? So the first is here. Okay, this is the first. Let me just highlight it. So it starts from here all the way up to here. This is the first evidence. And the second evidence is from here, okay, all the way up to here. These are 2 evidences that he mentions. What are the 2 evidences? The first is that the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded the Sahaba to protect water. The water should be preserved. And that water, he meant by that water, which he says in the hadith, which is stagnant. So if it's stagnant water, okay, like over here, we have here in this first example, or in this example, then if it's stagnant water, then you should not urinate in it, number one. Okay, person should not urinate in that water, nor should a person perform a bath in there if it's due to ritual impurity. Okay, so these are two things that a person should not, number one, urinate in stagnant water, and number two, should not bathe from ritual impurity. Remember that, okay, ritual impurity, it has to be ritual impurity. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ has forbade people from doing that, and therefore it means that what the fuqaha, the jurists, have understood from this is that the water becomes impure if a person was to urinate or was to take a bath from impurity, major impurity. So that's one hadith. The second hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ said that when one of you wakes up from his sleep, then he should not dip his hands into the container. So this is a container. In the olden days, they didn't have taps. So what would happen is they would dip their hands into the container and scoop out water, okay, from here. So they would scoop out the water. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that when one of you wakes up from his sleep, then he should not dip his hands directly into the water. Rather, he should wash his hands outside. Okay, wash the hands outside the bucket first of all 3 times, and then after that you can dip your hands into the bucket. And what's the reason? Here he mentions the reason. Because a person, when he goes to sleep at night time, a person's unaware, the body doesn't know what's happening, so his hands can go all over the place. It might touch his genitals, it might touch, place impurity on his genitals. So therefore what would happen is that in the morning, without him even knowing, he's made that bucket all impure, and so no one in the family would be able to use that water again. And remember, this water was a very important thing for them, because it was very rare to find fresh water, okay, everywhere. It was something that was only restricted to certain places. So water was something that was scarce relatively. So this is why Imam Qudoori has mentioned this masala. So the masala is that a person should not, if impurity falls into stagnant water, then a person is not permitted to perform wudu from the area around the impurity, whether it's a large amount or whether it's small amount of water. In other words, this is an example of small amount of water, and this is an example of large amount of water, and for the 2 reasons, the dalils that he mentions. I hope that makes sense. Jazakumullah khair.